Hi and welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, I wanted to talk to you about something that I really enjoy, and I think it's something that new people getting into the RC vintage Tamiya hobby is something it's really worth looking at, and that is obviously the Tamiya Boomerang. Now this is an original 58055, originally released in 30th of April 1986. That's what this car is. This is the first Tamiya I fully restored on the show. I won't put a link to the videos because they're terrible. But what I found out was, after rebuilding this car back to absolute mint, it's been totally rebuilt. The only thing that I didn't really change was I kept the original center chassis. Everything else is new. I didn't want to change that, otherwise I'd pretty much restored the whole car. So the main chassis of this is still original, but it's all got the original electronics, which I'll show you in a little while. But if you're new to vintage cars, personally, after spending time restoring lots of different vintage classics, if you're kicking off and you want to start with a 4x4, I highly recommend one of these. Why is that? It's a lovely build. It's a really easy, enjoyable flow of a build. You know, there's no major complications, there's no frustrating aspects, there's no crazy fiddly parts. It's all very logical, and it's something you can savor without stressing too much about it. That's the best way I can say about these cars. But there's many reasons to why you should get one of these. Price point wise, they're getting a little bit expensive now because they were reread a few times. So this was a reread again in 2008 under kit 58418, and that was the 10th of December 2008. Then Tamiya released it again under the same 58418 on the 2nd of March 2017. So there was a lot of parts. So if you're picking up an original one, there is quite a lot of parts available. If you're just after a re-re, again, it makes it easier, prices are a little bit lower, and if you want to give yourself a challenge of restoring one, having the extra parts available means that the prices on these parts are not quite expensive, and you can get your hands on bits and pieces without too much of a grind to find them. So it's just how far you want to take your restoration or your build. With this one, I ended up replacing 90% of the car. It's new body, new stickers, new wheels, new tyres, new bumpers, new gearbox housing, swing arms. I've done pretty much everything, but you don't have to go that far. But it allows you the opportunity to do it at a reasonable price. So that's a big take on it. It's an iconic car. It's a very pretty car. The paint job is very simple, really. It's just one colour all the way across. There's a little bit of masking to do, but again, a very easy body to cut out. I didn't find it difficult. Applying the stickers, again, there's not tons and tons of complicated stickers, so that's not that much of a challenge from that point of view. So, if you want to do your first sort of Tamiya vintage car, if you want to go four-wheel drive, obviously. If you want to go two-wheel drive, there's other options available. So it's very modular. You've got the back section gearbox that's fully enclosed, the front section, and they just drop into this tub chassis, which again is a lovely, easy chassis to work with. If you go down the route of something like this, for instance, I haven't restored this one yet. So this kind of evolved into this. This is a much harder car to work on from the chassis. Everything's enclosed, space is an issue. You could argue this is a better looking car, but for your first kind of getting into it, this can be a bit more expensive versus this one. So yeah, I'm a massive fan of this. As you can see, I've actually modded here, because one thing, when you put the body on, the driver sits all the way back here and he sits right in the back. That's one of the things. I've just put a bracket there temporary just to hold the driver in place. Now, another thing that's really nice about it is they're great to drive. Really, really nice, easy, fun to drive. You really enjoy driving these. You know, it's the classic kind of four-wheel drive vintage experience, but reliable. It's not going to implode on you at any moment. It's not going to break apart that you can't actually get, where you would find if you were going down the Falcon route. These cars are very different animals. As a first car, I would never recommend one of these versus one of these, mainly because these have never been re-reed, and they break quite constantly. So there's that aspect, as well as they're not too much of a challenge, and they are gorgeous looking. As time ticks on, they are getting a little bit more expensive. About a year ago, they were very easy to get. They were everywhere, but you can still pick up really good examples to restore and stuff like that. What else is really nice about them? Obviously I said they're great to drive, but you can throw brushless into these and they go like the clappers. It's a very tank-like car. It's surprising how tough and strong these are. So if you want to buy like the 2017 version, then throw some brushless in it, you can do that and then just blast it and it will really take it. I've seen footage of these things absolutely flying, and when I talk to the owners, they're like, yeah, I just put brushless in it. It's like, what, you didn't do it? No. Obviously you ball race it, you can't just use plastic when you're doing that kind of thing, but if you ball race the car, they will take brushless. You'd be surprised how much of a beating that these things will take. So that's another side of it as well, you know, that they can be special, but they can also be out and out bashing, running, and then if you break something, you can get the part, sling it back on again. So it's quite nice. The re-rees have really helped this car become that sort of vintage flavour, if you want, as well as being able to go, oh, I'll just drive this one and then I can buy another body and new stickers and things like that. Whereas a lot of the other cars that haven't been re-reed and things, they're a bit too delicate and a bit fragile and a bit expensive. Whereas this is a fantastic car. There is a few things on this one that I would recommend. You can do the big wig front suspension upgrade to have two shocks at the front instead of the mono shock. That can be a good idea. It's easy enough to do. All you do is pick up the bits. I think on eBay you can get people that actually have got all the bits for you. So the main difference is you need the uprights, then you need the arms. The arms have a modification on the front to take it, and then this suspension will go on the front of here. Now some people will argue it's ugly, and oh sorry, I'm too short, and I would agree. I think it's kind of ugly, but you get better suspension out the front of the car. I've put aftermarket suspension on this one just to make it a little bit more softer, and I had this suspension lying around, so I didn't take it quite back to perfect stock. Plus I like the black as well. It's more just black, white and blue, but hey, it's up to you what you do from it from that point of view. Again, you can run it on old electronics, or you can just throw in modern stuff and then just take it out for a blast. So I must admit I'm a big fan, absolutely big fan of this car, and it's a lovely, fun car to get into. So if you're thinking about going down the vintage classic route for your first kind of Tamiya vintage car, have a look at this one. I can highly recommend it. Anyway, thanks very much. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.